Another work week down, another episode of the Leadoff to get you ready for your sports Saturday. Hello, everybody. I'm Ashton, sitting here with Tony and Landen as usual, and thank you for entrusting us to get you prepped and ready for this weekend. What's going on, guys?
Man, I know you're tired. I'm tired.
No,
too much sports going on in the month of October. Too many sports that go late into the evenings. Busy week this week, man.
So doing Friday night football, which is a blast. It's kind of a burden when you have to do it, and then you get closer, it gets exciting, and then especially after last night's game, if you look behind Tony, you can see the game right there. So if you didn't see it last night, after you're done watching the Leadoff, go check it out because it was an exciting game. But I find myself doing a lot of my show prep Friday afternoon for this because I wake up early to start my show prep, and it's just not enough time anymore with every major sport going on right now, plus college football, and then doing Friday night football, which again was a blast, but it's a quick turnaround from getting home 11:30 midnight to waking up at 5 a.m. to get ready for all of this. But very fun, and again, it was Azle and Saginaw last night, not your big hitting traditional power schools. It's not Duncanville, it's not Aledo, but I wouldn't even call it small time because they're still 5A schools, but small time Texas high school football is still Texas high school football.
Yeah,
the same with okay Texas barbecue is still pretty good barbecue,
Yeah, and even when you're dealing with a team that hasn't won a game and a team that's only won one game, they still put on a really good show last night, and it came down to the wire.
Yeah, another one to the wire. Saginaw has played a couple of those recently. We're not going to give anything away, but go check that stream out. And
you're gonna want to watch it down to the last second.
Yeah, it was back and forth. A lot of big plays, a lot of turnovers. Yeah, there were just back and forth. A lot of momentum changing plays.
Probably even say blown leads.
Double-digit leads, on both sides. Well, I guess Azle never really got up that high, but it was just back and forth, a lot of lead changes.
Big play after big
exciting.
play. I mean, you can even say at the start of the game, within 10 seconds of the game, there was a touchdown. They ran back the initial kickoff, but Saginaw did.
Yeah.
Ran back the initial kickoff.
And then Azle comes back and scores within like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
On their offense. I mean, you don't really have to be invested in these teams to enjoy that game. When it's low-scoring defensive battles, sometimes you have to really understand the teams. But this was just crazy plays. A really, really fun game to do. So that game, obviously, I mean, it didn't go late for high school football, but by the time I get home, it's, whatever. Kids are all in the bed sleeping with mom, so I just, plopped right on the couch and turned on another game for Friday night. Like, speaking of Friday night football, it was the collegiate level. So Colorado's up by 29 points. So I just turned that Colorado-Stanford, turn that game on, just kind of go to sleep, and then
I actually turned.
I'm going to apologize to Dion, Coach Prime, because I may have cursed it because they were just blowing out Stanford until I turned the game on.
Same for me. I mean, Stanford came back and scored a touchdown. I thought, you know what, this thing. I mean, go back. They're up 29 points. They're going for it on like a 4th and 4 just because it's like we're up 29 points in the first half. We're just going to try some stuff. If we get in a tight game and we need to go on a 4th down, they're going to do it. They were pretty much just pulling things out of the playbook, end around plays, reverse plays. Like they were just using stuff to just like a practice, and they got lackadaisical. Yeah, and Stanford scored their first touchdown. I thought, this still isn't too much of a game. I turned it off.
There was a turning point when they were still down, I think 10, but the touchdown to bring him within 10, it was like a 3rd down play incomplete, but there was a holding call, and Colorado accepted it. I was like, okay, it makes the field goal a little harder if they can stop them. But interesting, I'm like, just let him kick the field goal. Let's not give him another chance. And then they go play, and they're 3rd and 16 or something like that. They don't get the play, but that's when, I don't remember who it was, but after the play, Colorado kind of got pissed off and pushed him after the play, pretty high up. They got really frustrated. It caused automatic first down, and Stanford scored a touchdown. And that's when I thought they're getting frustrated. They're getting upset. That they're feeling the pressure. I was like, when you start doing things like that, it's kind of all downhill from there. Like, it's plays like that. It's not, if it even worked out last night where the last drive of the game, I'm not going to give it away, but there was an interception on third down. So they get the ball at the 50-yard line instead of throw it away, punt the ball away. They get the ball probably at the 20-yard line. Not only is it break up that difference in field position, but you have the momentum from getting the turnover, and you're really excited and pumped. The same way as if they would have given up a touchdown, forget the fact that they stopped him and they were going to make him kick a field goal. If they give up a touchdown, that's different. But on a penalty like that, where now the defense is kind of like, man, we stopped them twice, pretty much, and now we're giving them the ball back, it really affects you mentally. I think that's what, in terms of momentum, really changes the game.
Well, this comes off of this week when Dion called out staffers, players for, really locking in and really wanting to be there, and the competitiveness level and what he's allowing to happen, and him, turning these, young men into adults, and it's after that you see him up 29. I thought, man, his message was received. They heard it.
Yeah.
But then for everything to kind of go to crap for him, have we overhyped Colorado?
I don't think so. They've been getting a lot of attention, but in my mind, I never said that or thought that they were like national championship contenders. I don't know if anybody reputable really ever said that. Because you played TCU, Nebraska, and then of course Colorado State. State game was not overhyped. It was a really good game, but a far lesser opponent in Colorado State, and you go to double or triple overtime, whatever that ended up being. I think Dion is the reason they're hyped. Coach Prime, the Dion effect, because you put any other coach in that situation and you get the exact same outcomes. I don't think they're on college game day. I don't think everybody's staying up till 2 a.m. to watch them beat Colorado State, or even probably a lot of haters watching to make sure Stanford completes the comeback and they lose to Stanford. But they had one win last year. For the most part of the USC game, USC had their number.
So halfway through the season, they are 4 times better than they were last year.
Yeah,
which is what we expected. We expected they would have some sort of.
It's
turnaround.
the first year of a rebuild.
It's not just Dion. They brought in top talent into this. They cut loose a lot of players off of a 1-win team.
Yeah, to
bring in top talent, and they did it well.
And coaches say that's not how it works in college, and it works. If you go from, let's just say they don't win another game, but Pac-12 is one of the better, probably the best football school this year, or football conference this year. If they don't win another game, which is very unlikely, you quadruple your number of wins. Now, I'd be highly disappointed with some of the hype that went in, starting off 3-0,
competing, 21, 19.
Yeah, competing against USC late in that game. But you change a lot of things up, and you go from 1 win to, I don't know, they'll probably win 6 or 7 games, I think. I don't have the rest of their schedule in front of me. But it's got to be successful. It's just like...
And then transitioning going into the Big 12 next year.
Yeah.
With Texas leaving, Oklahoma leaving, right?
Yeah, it leaves a big spot there, right? Obviously Texas and OU are, even arguably, they're the top 2 teams in the Big 12 right now. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a big spot left there, and you're leaving
Colorado next year,
obviously a better Pac-12 to a lesser Big 12, very competitive, but lesser Big 12 where you have
an opportunity. You could win the Big 12 next season as Colorado, because you only imagine, like you said, in college football, because of college football, excuse me, previously you would see, like, it would be hard to have a big turnaround season to season because you're dealing with recruiting classes and you have these guys that are here for multiple years that you have to phase out. You know, there wasn't a situation like in professional sports where you could make trades and drastically improve your team. Now with the transfer portal, you can. In one season, you can drastically turn your program around.
And I think the Dion effect, at minimum, will last for 2 or 3 years. Now, if Colorado goes back to mediocrity, maybe some of that shine rubs off. I mean, you already see them changing rules where if it's an unofficial visit, you can't take pictures, which coaches were complaining because that's what does Dion do when he goes to – everyone wants to take a picture with Prime.
Take a picture with his Lamborghini.
Yeah. Which I thought whatever. I mean, NCAA, I think anytime they make rules, you very rarely agree with them one way or the other. But I get it. Not many college coaches are flashy like that. And you don't want that to – and, of course, if my kid's going to – I mean, Landen knows this. College potential college sports is I don't want my kid to pick that school because of Coach Prime coming in with his Lamborghini.
Yeah.
You know, I think for most kids, the program doesn't matter as much if you're not necessarily looking at NFL or anything like that. It's more how the school fits with you. Is the environment better for your kid? And not that, Dion or Coach Prime, whatever you want to, I don't think he's bad for anybody, but if my kid goes to Colorado, great. I don't want that to be the reason. So I get that aspect, but I don't think they're overhyped. I think people got really excited when it happened. But however they finish the season, if you tell me this is going to be their record, they're going to compete, they're going to do this, I think you would take that before the beginning of the season because Colorado is excited. Obviously, they sold out all season thinking this is going to be a big year. A lot of experts were saying this might be the worst roster in college football history. So now that you get into it, just like, which we'll talk about the MLB playoffs here in a minute, being a Rangers fan, making that turnaround in 1 year, if they get swept by the Astros in the ALCS, looking back, it's a very successful season regardless. But now that you're here,
well, that's what you have to.
You're like, oh, we get blown out. Or I mean, we lose to Stanford, get blown out by Oregon, barely lose to USC. Those are disappointing. But if you look at those, hey, in 7 games you're going to be 4-3. I think as Colorado, you take that to an extent.
Yeah, and that's where Colorado. I mean, it is a successful season. I think they have been overhyped. I mean, a team that you think is going to win 6 or 7 games shouldn't be on nationally televised. They shouldn't be on College Game Day. They shouldn't, the stars wouldn't be there normally. All these A-listers, last night you had a ton of them there too. That doesn't happen on a 6 or 7 win season team.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't. Mm-hmm. Name one. Show me one situation where that happens on a consistent basis. If
it's like a Texas and Notre Dame,
like a single game. We're talking about week after week after week.
Yeah.
It's continually growing.
Or we really didn't even intend on talking about Colorado today.
No, we didn't really
until then.
I mean, if Colorado pulls off the win, we're probably not talking about them. But because they gave up this big loss, we are. That shows. I mean, them to even get themselves in a position to be up by 29 shows that they do have the talent. This is a talented roster. Yeah. I don't care what any of the so-called experts say. This is a talented roster. Do they have holes? Absolutely. Their offensive line struggling. Their defense is mediocre, I think.
It's what happens when you make a big leap and it's the first year, quote unquote, of a rebuild. It's classic. You have a hard time finishing games.
Well, and now they know what their problems are, but it's not like the NFL or any other professional sport where you can go in and make those corrections mid-season. They're stuck with the roster they have. There's no adding, taking away. They're stuck with what they have. They're going to go through the offseason and figure out. They're going to fix this offensive line. I mean, Dion has brought in the specialty players. Now he can go out and find the offensive linemen, defensive linemen. He can bring in
that
top talent.
Now that he shows it's not fantasy football, like, hey, we're doing something legitimate here, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
If he goes out, brings this roster and wins 2 or 3 games this season, that's different.
Colorado football on the map, or the University of Colorado in general. They put them on the map for people that didn't care or even really know much about Colorado. He's put them on the map. He has changed that culture and changed the culture of college football for the better. And we've talked about that. And we all agree on that. I think this Colorado team could be a team to be reckoned with next season. When they have a season under their belt, they know what their weaknesses are. They can go out and recruit to those weaknesses. Have another good recruiting class come in. I think, and moving to the Big 12, which yes will be possibly, I would say for sure, weaker than what they're in now with the Pac-12. I think they're going to be.
You do have Utah going to the Big 12 as well.
I still think they're one of the favorites, at least, to make it to the Big 12 championship next season.
I agree. Oh man, the Dion effect. We're talking about a Stanford.
We're talking about
Colorado game.
A 4-3 Colorado team.
A Stanford, Colorado, both unranked team, leading off our show. But let's get this show started. Subscribe to our YouTube page. If you like what you hear, go ahead and hit that like button. If you don't like what you hear, hit the like button twice. This episode of Leadoff is brought to you by Betalytics. I'm just going to free ball this. I'm not even going to pull up the live spot. Go to Betalytics.com. Use the promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up. We're about to talk MLB Playoffs. If you normally bet on baseball, Landen can attest to this. Don't bet with your gut. It completely changes in the playoffs. You can't make any predictions. Betalytics uses AI algorithms, uses all kind of different prop bets. Just go on there. Lots of times you get free prop bets. You follow Betalytics, follow us. You'll get free player props here and there. Test it out. I can attest to it as well. I use it from time to time. Just take your gut out of it. Don't worry about it. Don't bet with your gut. Let them make the decision for you.
Can we start with the NLCS and the NL side?
Sure.
I think that's the most surprising, is it not? The
D-backs
Dodgers get swept.
This is the first time in the history of MLB
Braves get knocked out. I mean, did we expect the
classic
Braves?
Dodger fashion, get knocked out in the playoffs by a team who's not better than you.
They're really the
Braves.
Can we say they're the Cowboys of
Yes,
Major League? Like
they
they
are.
won championships, the bubble championship, and
Yeah, the Braves are the.
I still think the Braves are the most talented team in Major League Baseball.
The
even
Braves
though
are
they
the poster
lost.
child for October is a completely different season than the summer. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. had probably one of the best summers in MLB history. Easily the MVP, NL MVP.
Mm-hmm.
October didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But someone like Corey Seager, who he had a great summer, but compared to him, Ronald Acuna, like that's not like night and day difference.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen Corey Seager get out yet.
Yeah.
I really don't know if he's had gotten out. He's been intentionally walked more times than he has actual at bats, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
the first time in MLB history, the final four teams, none of them have won over 90 games. You know, the Phillies, Astros, and Rangers all have 90 wins. Obviously, the D-backs have less. Really interesting that if the Rangers win, no matter what, they have home field advantage, having a better record than the D-backs, and they have the tiebreaker over the Phillies. Obviously, they swept them first opening series. Can we all agree that All-Star game deciding home field advantage in the World Series was stupid?
Yeah.
Trying
I didn't
to
know
make
that was
it
a
relevant.
thing. I kind of like that.
I
though.
mean,
It gives the game a
if it's like
meaning.
a Pro Bowl gimmick or something, I get it, but I think the MLB out of all the All-Star games in major sports, that's probably I mean, I know NBA All-Star Weekend is kind of cool, but for the game itself, it's definitely way better than the Pro Bowl. I don't care if Pro Bowl gets slightly better ratings. It's football. I don't care, but I think the MLB All-Star game has something there that people are more excited about. You don't need that gimmick. And I think it cost the Rangers, a World Series in 2011. Not because they should have had home field advantage. But
I think for sure there should be other analytics that are used with, winning series, the head-to-head matchups, things like that. What's another option could be just alternating like you do with the Super Bowl, which that doesn't matter as much, but this year's the AL has home field. Next year, NL has home field. The following year, AL has home field. The next
I
year,
mean, that's
NL
better
has
than
home field,
letting the All-Star game decide that. I mean, typically, if you're most of the All-Stars are on teams that are competing for a championship, but I know they have a rule that you have to have one All-Star from every team. So a lot of guys don't even care one way or the other. But now that they have the new schedule in MLB where you play every team once, it's pretty much a evened out schedule. I think you can do that. I don't know what the Diamondbacks, looking down their schedule, I can make an argument that AL West was better than NL West, although you got to play Oakland how many ever times, 15 times, whatever it comes out to. But if the D-backs and Rangers go, I don't think D-backs are going to say we had a tougher schedule. It wasn't even. That's a lot less controversial than letting the All-Star game decide.
If the Phillies advance, do they have the upper hand?
I think the Phillies
with
would
home
be
field because of the time of year in October, the cooler weather in Philadelphia.
There's no comparison.
Effect?
If you rank home field advantage right now, I think Philly has it. Astros probably close second, just because this is their seventh straight time to the ALCS.
I mean, we saw Houston go into Philly last year.
Yeah, that's true. But if it was like Phillies Astros, I would probably pick the Phillies. I don't know who has home field advantage. I know they have both the same record. I don't know what their head-to-head is. But I don't know. That's probably what most people are picking the series to be, because I know the Rangers had the least chance of making it out of the DS.
But that's all from the regular season statistics, because they lost to the Astros in the series.
It's completely different now. Now you go to the ALCS. Does the Rangers? I mean, the Astros are obviously going to be favorited. They had the Rangers number through the regular season, but right now the Rangers are hot. They haven't lost a game in the playoffs. It's hard to bet against them. But at the same time, you're kind of wondering, like, well, it's the Rangers played well against the Orioles, a good matchup. They beat the Rays. They had more wins against the Rays than they did losses. So that kind of makes sense, and the Rays don't even have a home field advantage. If anything, that's better for it's better for the other team, which we need to talk about. They need to take. I don't care the reason. I don't care if it's the stadiums in St. Petersburg. I care if Florida's filled with mostly retired Yankees and Red Sox fans. I don't care the reason. Tampa, you need to get the team out of Tampa Bay. There's way more teams that'll show more support. Neither here nor there. We'll talk about that in a different episode. But right now, I think the Rangers kind of have an upper hand. I mean, obviously, we'll see tomorrow, game 1. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So let's see who punches first.
Yeah, I think the Rangers are going to be a scary team. Houston's going to come with a lot of confidence, but like we talked about with the whole Colorado deal, Texas has nothing to lose. Houston has everything to lose. Yeah, if Houston comes in and loses game 1, that's going to look bad. Yeah, then they have a lot of pressure on them.
Texas is playing with house money. Like I said, it was successful. I think it was successful once they made the playoffs. For sure, successful season after they swept the Rays. I still feel weird saying swept in 2 games. That's just either way. Then they swept the best team in baseball record-wise.
Yeah.
Obviously, I agree the Braves are probably better, but at least in the AL, the Orioles were definitely the best
AL team.
But look at all the teams that had buys. Astros are the only team to make it out of there. So maybe there is something to be said for momentum rather than being able to rest your starters. The Rangers' downfall, obviously, their bullpen. We'll find out how the starters do. Max Scherzer, I think they've already listed game 1 and game 2 starters. I don't know that Scherzer will start. I think he's better off starting and going for like 2 or 3 innings. But I agree with I don't know if the Rangers are doing this, but I agree with what they're doing with Scherzer, because I think the first time he comes in should be at home in front of their home crowd, because the playoffs, getting your home crowd rocking it might be the most definitive effect you have on a team. We're talking about home field advantage. NFL playoffs, sure, but I think MLB playoffs, how loud your home crowd is in certain situations has more effect on players than any other sport, I think, personally. And putting Scherzer back in the game, and whether it's in a relief role or a starting role, I think you wait till you're home to really get that going and getting that element.
Yeah.
I think if they're going to keep him at whatever he's at, 3-4 innings, I think just put him in the bullpen and let him come in a home game, let him come close something out.
In a really emotional moment.
Yeah.
And
instead of letting him go, I mean, 4 innings out of a starter is terrible. We saw it with
I know they have that with like Dane Dunning and
we saw
one
it
of their
with
other pitchers.
Baltimore, when I don't think they had a pitcher go farther than 6 innings the whole series.
Yeah, when you're down 4-0, 6-0, I mean, it's you got to trust.
Well,
it's obviously not working.
Luckily, I think the Rangers probably have the best manager left, or probably best manager complete. He's got to win Manager of the Year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're not supposed to take playoffs into account in these situations, but whether they improved by 14 or 15 games,
even to get this team into the playoffs, this year,
and had them leading the AL West most of the year, but. I mean, Bruce Bochy's, you're basically starting from zero. You have when they win in on Wednesday, so they have till Sunday. Everything's reset. So really, it's not work with what you got. You can set up. I mean, Astros have the same advantage. They're going to be able to pick their lineups and everything, but it's just manager to manager. And I think that's a reason why I have a lot of confidence in the Rangers. Is Bochy has won 13 out of the last 14 series he's managed.
Well, that's what's so great.
That's the 13 he's taken to a CS. Or LCS. That's the only
that's what's great about baseball
history.
Is most all teams are matched pretty evenly. Like, and that's the game of baseball, is anybody can win at any moment. You can just be on or off a day. It's not like NFL or other sports where the best teams truly do win. Sometimes the best teams don't win, but a lot of times, especially in the playoff scenarios like we see, and when we see it down to the Final Four, you're going to see it comes down to managing. What lineups?
A lot more strategy.
How can you tell what guy is hot or is about to be hot?
Football,
those are things that you can see a guy mentally with the mental game of baseball. You can see when a guy's about to go over a hump and get hot again, or sometimes you can see when he's about to hit a slump. You make adjustments, and sometimes you're like, "Well, why would you do that?" When then it's like, "Well, man, this was a great idea. This kid just went off." That's where it's going to come down. And in the past, we've seen Houston. Dusty Baker, arguably one of the best managers in history.
Yeah.
He's shown that in the past, half a decade or so now that Houston's been.
And I think that's kind
really
of gone under the radar. Two amazing managers going up against each other. It's just kind of been, hey, an all Texas ALCS, and I think it's kind of gone under the radar where two obviously Hall of Fame managers.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I think baseball, other sports you don't strategize as much as baseball. I think NFL you don't really sub that much, maybe on defense a little more strategy wise. Basketball you put different lineups, but baseball with really one manager making the decisions. Like in football, your defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator making a lot of those decisions, special teams coach. Where baseball you're picking the lineup, what can be different every day. You're talking about pitch hitting, you're talking about your pitchers, you're like bringing in, when do you bring in a certain relief pitcher? For the most part, you're not messing around with quarterbacks. You're not saying, okay, let's bring the quarterback in for this, this situation. Really on offense, there's certain plays you bring in different running backs and different packages for. But I think any coach of any sport, baseball might have the most effect. NFL for sure. I think basketball coaches are overhyped. I think in the NBA, depending on, if LeBron James is on your team, I think you're really running the offense around him. It's not very difficult. You just have to win it on the court. But man, it's going to be a great series to watch. I hope it goes 6 or 7 games regardless. I'd love for the Rangers to sweep. But either way, I hope it's going to be a good, competitive, legendary series with two great managers.
Yeah.
A
couple teams you're just going to probably see beat up on each other. To make it to the World Series.
And I could see the Astros winning in 5. I could see the Rangers winning in 5. I could see this going 7 games. It's going to be a really interesting series when you have division rivals who really know each other.
Yeah.
Moving on, we already talked some college football. Let's move on. We were talking about how the Pac-12 is some of the greatest football conference right now, talent-wise, and the two big matchups. 3 of these 4 teams are in the Pac-12. Number 8 Oregon at number 7 Washington. Really under the radar, low key teams. Maybe Oregon not quite so much, but I mean it's a great matchup. It's going to be difficult. You're really not used to seeing Washington Washington not being a big power and being on the West Coast where I barely see Colorado games because they go till 2 a.m. most time.
Yeah.
But Oregon Washington, this would be a good game.
Good matchup.
Yeah.
You don't expect at this point in the season to see 2 top 10 teams face each other, in the same conference.
Yeah, usually, if you know they're going to be really good, you wait till later in the season to get that matchup late. But I know Washington, they're doing better than most people thought. But, they were ranked at the beginning of the year. It's not a huge surprise. And Oregon, most years, are ranked pretty high. And then a big rivalry game, number 10 USC at number 21 Notre Dame. Do we know why this is a rivalry game? I know they always play it's just kind of random. Notre Dame has a lot of weird rivals just because they're independent and they don't want to be part of a conference. So they always play Army, USC. They just have all these weird games.
Yeah, and I guess that makes more rivalries when you do have those random games from other conferences. And
Notre Dame, I think, will hold their own against USC. They took Ohio State to the last play, although Duke took them to the last play. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be a testament to Duke if Notre Dame can hold up in this game.
Yeah.
Jumping to the NFL, not a whole lot of great matchups. So we have Ravens-Titans. That's not necessarily a great game, but it's in London. It's this week's London. I think the third straight week of international.
Again, another 8:25.
Are you going to wake up early? You'll probably be up anyways, but anybody have any interest? I might turn it on in the background.
Yeah, that's how I've been watching these, except for the first week of it when they did the Toy Story. I did tune into that, but which I think was a good gimmick for the NFL to get people to tune in that week. I'm sure the ratings were through the roof just because people wanted to see how that was going to go.
Yeah, and it'll look like a big success. But for what their goal was to get kids into it, I don't think my kids could care less about it. We watched probably the first half like that. There were a lot of hiccups here and there, but I think I was watching it more. They thought it was cool at first, and then they're like, okay, this is a football game. I don't care. And then it was just me watching Toy Story football. I was curious to see because there was a lot of issues at first. They weren't even showing the game. It was just the two commentators were talking in their Toy Story selves.
Yeah, you see glitches in the background of stuff.
So I was interested in watching it more because of that, and then they finally got it together. But it's funny, I caught myself I'm just in here watching a Toy Story game by myself.
Yeah, I think the time definitely is an issue with the NFL and the London games. Even for people like us that follow sports.
If you have a team, though, I know we talked about
maybe
it.
Just because they're not competitive matchups.
But if you have a team in London, they're not going to fall to the normal. It doesn't matter if you're East Coast or West Coast. If the Chargers are playing an early game, it's 10 a.m. there, when they start. So in London, that's what do we come up with? Like a 2 o'clock game, 1 o'clock game? It's a weird time anyway. It's not a normal starting time. And that's Central Time. Compared to Central Time, 8:25, and what London time would be, and we talked about what time would they start. Obviously, if they were on Monday Night Football, I guess you just say screw it, and we started at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock our time, or Sunday Night Football, and they're starting at midnight or whatever there. So obviously, you couldn't. You would have to work that out one way or the other, but. I think that's part of the hesitation too. I don't know if the NFL really wants to move a team there. They say we want to, that's why we have these games, but they are going to have a game in Brazil, Buenos Aires, I think, later on this year. Is that the right town? Maybe Rio. But they're probably not moving a team there.
Yeah,
They're having
they
it
do
in
the
Germany. I don't know.
Mexico City game, and
Honestly, I think that's should be the most likely option is Mexico City if you're going to go international, because the travel's not going to be a huge issue. I mean, time zone wise, obviously it's pretty far south, and I think you probably have more NFL fans in Mexico City. I know it's fun. I like watching the London games to watch the crowd.
Yeah,
because they're kind of crazy. They, just like Americans in soccer, most Americans, they don't understand the times to be loud, so they're just loud all the time.
Yeah, constantly.
It's just constant, and then you have you could probably find a fan and see all 32 jerseys, 32 team jersey there. I think they got a shot last week. Was it the Jets? I can't remember the matchup last week. Jaguars and
Bills.
The Bills. And there, it was the Bills. So there was a shot where there were like 10 people and all of them were wearing Bills, Jaguars apparel. And I thought you're always going to get this random Colts fan in there or whatever, just because they have an NFL jersey. I'm wearing an NFL jersey to an NFL game. They don't care. Which I guess it might be the same.
I think
way
there's
here.
got to be a plan for the NFL behind this. And, you had the Jaguars there for 2 weeks. They're testing out different scenarios. Having the Jaguars there, the Jaguars seemed to come out nice, fresh, and ended up beating the Bills. Were they better off by being there a week and not having the jet lag of traveling that same week they played?
Getting over whatever.
Maybe that's that. And we talked about them. The Jaguars are going to be a competitive team, probably a playoff team. That was probably a preview of a playoff matchup. But, I think we're seeing the making of them going to London. There will be a team in London. Timeline, I don't know how long it's going to be, but you have to imagine that's what the plan is and why they continue to play games there. They're trying to see what the viewership's like, the time of the game, how does that work? The travel for multiple teams, how does that work? How does it work having a team stay there an extra week, play back-to-back weeks there? And
it shows the players associations, the fans that, hey, it's working.
Mm-hmm.
One way or another, whether it's like we talked before, starting out your first 4 games in the States, then 4 games in back London if you have your team there, and then 4 games back, or maybe 8 games in London, then 4 games. It's obviously not going to be back and forth. You would have to do it differently. I don't know if then you start talking about, well, if you have 8 home games or 4 home games in a row, what is that? How does that benefit you more? And then obviously having teams.
Well, I think
come in.
we talked about, it would be more beneficial to either have a couple teams or an entire division there, so that you don't necessarily have to have that team play all of their home games all in one 4-week stretch.
Yeah.
That you could rotate them around. They might have a couple home and then a couple over here in Berlin or wherever they're at, and then come into the States and play, and maybe you have it where you have groups of teams traveling to the States and groups of teams going overseas, and that, because that's a much smaller geographical area where maybe
you're not always playing the road team coming from America. Yeah, you pick, let's just say, because you would probably have like schedules. The Cowboys and Eagles go play. Cowboys play the London team. The Eagles play Berlin or Paris,
and then maybe
or whatever.
they switch that week,
swap.
so they're doing a 2-week stretch there and then come back. Yeah,
and you could probably manage the bye weeks where most of the time, if you can, the team's going to have a bye week, then they're going, or vice versa, they're going international, then they have a bye week. There's a bunch of different ways to go about it. Probably the biggest matchup, Monday Night Football, Cowboys-Chargers. Cowboys trying to rebound after humiliating loss to the 49ers on Sunday Night Football last week. A lot of intrigue with going with Kellen Moore now that again, the offense is struggling, and the knock for years has been, is it Kellen, is it Dak? And now we'll see what
Kellen's gone and the offense hasn't changed much.
Yeah, and now you'll see what Kellen's offense take over with this. It seems like wounded defense. We thought might have been the best ever, at least a top defense.
Yeah, they've been exposed the past few weeks, and
we'll see if Kellen Moore can.
I think that's
can find that brown spot or that black spot in the X-ray.
I think that's the story in it. Is can he capitalize on what weaknesses we're starting?
And
to
that's
see?
going to be a story if the Cowboys offense struggles at all. If the Chargers win this game, which is they're a good team. They have every chance to win this game. It's at home, which in LA might as well be a Cowboys home game, especially with the Chargers being LA's second team. If the Cowboys offense is struggling and the Chargers offense is the reason they win the game, that's definitely going to be a storyline one way or the other, whether it's for sure Kellen's play calling or not, but it's a big storyline that I think is bad timing for the Cowboys and kind of the situation they're in, because with the Chargers defense, the Cowboys should have no issue offensively. Chargers do have a good offense. I think there's something like 49 of 50 on seam routes or something weird, like odd stat where he's thrown one. Herbert's thrown one incompletion on this. So defense might struggle a little bit. I think it just depends if we're going to get the defense that we saw against both New York teams, or we're going to.
But in Cowboys fashion, you could see the Cowboys go out and dominate and win this game by 20 points.
Which would be beneficial to them. I mean, going on a bye week, you don't want to have a 2-game losing streak, a horrible loss against the 49ers, which you're really like hoping we may lose this game, but this is a measuring stick game.
I mean, at the point they're at now, and I know we're still really early in the season, they're fighting for a wild card spot. It's unlikely that we're going to see the Eagles,
down. Yeah, you're down
Eagles
2
tank.
games.
I mean, yeah, there's no reason the Eagles aren't just going to roll. Even if you beat the Eagles, I mean, I think
it's weird to say you have
Eagles
control
pretty
of your
much
own
have
destiny
the Eagles
this
pretty
early,
much have
but
the NFC East at hand. I mean,
the Cowboys can go and beat them twice. It'd be very difficult. I don't imagine that happening. But I mean, you do have the cards in your hand. You go. It doesn't matter. Eagles could win out. You win out as well, which is really hard. But you've played most of your hard games outside of Philadelphia. But you'd hold the tiebreaker against them. That's why until you play Philadelphia, keeping it within 2 games at least keeps it in your control. But it's really early to talk about that. But it's just like the Cowboys. They have a bad game, and you're worried about them. And then they go out and have a good game. You're like, oh, yeah, we're going to win the Super Bowl. That's typically
the team we thought we had. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always back and forth with the Cowboys. And I do have faith if the defense can hold out that they can win with Dak. But as we saw in San Francisco, they can't. Dak can't be the reason they win, because once he starts trying to take over, throw it downfield, he's going to turn the ball over. Real quick, Landen, if you want to go to, we're going to do the thread brought to you by Apogee Grafix and see some of the college football uniforms we're going to see today. Tony, you want to take this over?
These are just a few you're going to see. We'll start with Utah's. It's a pretty cool tribal design on the helmets. But one thing they came out yesterday with a last-minute change, which is kind of weird that they pick these uniforms and then they, do these big photo
Who are they
shoots.
playing? I'm trying to think of who are they playing.
I don't know. I don't
just like
have it in
color
front of
black?
me. Yeah.
Is it a night game? Usually see it's like all black.
I'm not sure
Night
that,
game.
but so they're doing a last-minute change to red pants with this uniform, with the black helmet, with that tribal. And then we move down below them, the UTSA. You can see this is the Mexican Heritage Month, and this is their Mexican Heritage Month helmet with you see the stripe design. What is it, kind of like a chrome finish on these as well on the logos. Those are kind of cool. Obviously, Oregon always coming out with something fresh. You see these paint splatter uniforms they'll wear today. Like you talked about in that matchup against Washington. And I think Washington, I didn't pull that one, but Washington was wearing, I think it's Washington's, if I remember right, Washington's homecoming game.
Utah is playing Cal, so that has nothing to do with color clash. It's a 2:00 game, so
Yeah.
I'm fine with this. I think if you're going to go all black for a night game, that's a thing. Do that. Stick with it. That's a cool thing. You don't see many teams black helmet, black jersey, red pants. I think it'd be it's like a
nice
Texas
mix.
Tech kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I do believe that Oregon is a duck shell.
The what?
The Oregon jersey, I think that's
shell.
duck shell. That's kind of the pattern that they were going for.
Public school system showing here a duck shell.
Who knows, man?
Ducks have a shell.
No, like the egg.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
you. I was saying public school system,
Yeah.
me,
No,
not
no,
you.
no,
Like,
that-
what are they teaching you on school now? Ducks come from.
That does make a lot
Yeah,
of
okay,
sense.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
That does,
with
yeah. Okay.
the pattern.
I like the green. It's kind of like the lizard type,
Yeah.
reflective green, and
And
then
then
the helmets are like all chrome.
possibly my favorite one there, that's Penn State.
Yeah.
And I know you're just looking at it, you say, oh, okay, well, that's just Penn State, right? The navy white. But on the helmets, and what you can't see in this photo, the helmets, they're actually going with large numbers on the sides of the helmet, which we never see. Penn State, right? They just a plain helmet with
And
the
that,
stripe.
yeah, that's the more interesting one. I always thought after like, the Joe Paterno era, we're not gonna, get into that, but when you had a coach take over, they were talking about how this is maybe one of the hardest jobs. I think they should just. I'm not a Penn State fan or know much about their tradition, but I thought they should just go start putting names on them, and then there you can see the logo in the background there, like the
The
Panther or what? Nittany Lion. Put that logo on the helmet and like just start your own
Do
own
something
thing,
different.
yeah.
New
And then
era,
maybe
yeah.
throw blue pants in there because they have. That's it. This is
That's about
white
as
jerseys,
fresh as
blue
you
jerseys.
get.
Yeah, there's no pants. There's nothing on the helmet.
I don't know what it is about this look, though. I guess because we see so many wild, and as you see these others, like wild,
This is just
radical,
basic,
but
but
that's a great look.
for
That
Penn
navy,
State, it's-
navy
yeah.
top, white, and then you throw in those numbers on there, just gives you something extra. Penn State still, even as plain as they stay, have one of the best classic looks of any team in college sports.
I think we're moving towards that with alternate uniforms or just like basic.
Yeah.
It's getting kind of cool because we're coming out of that new millennium alternate, which Oregon's still in there and Oregon's still rocking it.
Yeah.
Where we've gone to these bold colors, shiny, chrome, silver, reflective, which we talked about Oregon, and then we talked about another school a couple weeks, Miami having that, which it still works. I think going so far one way and then coming back and just doing this bold color, it looks classic to us. Very, because navy and white work so well together, and it's Penn State. Anything they do is gonna turn heads if they're gonna change their uniforms. I think when you go back to basic, it's interesting. I think we're gonna go that way with NBA uniforms soon because, which some have, because like Utah, where I was talking about it, months ago on the show, that they were wearing their throwbacks. It was the purple and blue with the mountain range. And I'm like, throwbacks? That's like how I envision their uniforms.
That is there, yeah.
And then the same with Phoenix is they're going towards more basic as their normal uniforms. But with baseball and in the NBA, you see these really wild City Connect and whatever you call it in baseball. Whereas I think probably, 5 to 10 years down the road, maybe not that long, that NBA was just going to go back to white uniforms home, your main away uniform, and then you have a couple of alternates where now it's like sometimes they wear white at home, but there's no rhyme or reason they
We've
wear
seen it
anything.
recently in the NFL, and we've talked about it with like the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Buccaneers. Even they went from
Going
these
more basic.
Wild, they're going back to these cleaner, crisp. I don't want to call them plain, but a more basic, clean design.
Where it was
of a
like
uniform.
with the Cardinals just recently changing away, where I think it was like the Buffalo Bills of the early 2000s, just kind of random.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, and they went back to just basic white helmets, white pants, sometimes blue in the normal jersey, where it was a cool idea. You're just trying to do this random stuff, and then all this, like Minnesota did it too, and then they kind of went back to like it just didn't hit right. And you even see the Jets kind of going back to a more, which they have for a couple of years, and, just changing their real look last year, but going back to a more of a throwback but newer style uniform, going with the green helmets. Back from their classic style. You even see, I've just noticed it last year because I don't watch a lot of Patriots games, but it was like their alternate uniform is now their regular uniform with the big stripes on the side. That I've just noticed that's now their uniform, where you're getting a lot of I guess at a certain point you can't keep coming up with newer ideas on uniforms. Some people will keep trying. But now you're going to a different. Yeah, you have which I feel like late 80s, early 90s, a lot of maybe like high school and college teams had the big stripe like the Patriots have now, and has been their alternate for the last few years, than I guess regular uniform now. home uniform, that you're kind of recycling. And I say recycling, not like it's a bad thing. I like where uniforms are going. You have to keep changing them nowadays with being able to, sell more apparel and making new jerseys and doing different things, where instead of going alternate, they're going like the all white ice colors, all black colors. And then they're recycling some of it. Yeah, exactly. They're doing big stripes, going back to basics. Instead of there was a time there where a lot of teams and a lot of leagues were going all silver, whatever their alternate, which the Texans just did, and I love. And I've been thinking they should do this for a while. You're basically leaving the same uniforms, just changing it to your different color. And the Texans wore a red helmet.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the first time they've done that.
I think it is.
Worn all red uniforms without the helmet.
But I think it's the first time they've gone with a red helmet.
Yeah, I like the change for them, because the Texans are one that they probably really need new uniforms. They've worn alternate, but they've had the same uniforms for 21 years.
Yeah. Since
they've been around. And I think you're getting more basic, but it doesn't seem lazy, because you're really changing it up. Not just they're red, white, and blue. They always wear blue. Make them wear red.
Yeah.
Type deals. Anything else, guys? Anything you want to talk about this week? Landon, you've been pretty quiet. Who comes out of the ALCS and NLCS?
Predictions. Big
predictions. I mean, those series will probably still be going on.
Well, let's get on the
by
books
our
now.
next show.
Let's
Yeah.
get on the books now.
For the World Series?
Yeah. Just pick your World Series teams and how many games you think it's going to take.
I don't know. Probably Philly Rangers. There's no way the D-backs make it out of that championship series.
So it's gonna be difficult on the road. I don't think the Phillies have any issue with Arizona's crowd.
Arizona's not that good.
You say that, but they swept the Rangers recently here late in the season.
And they haven't lost in the playoffs either.
They played the Dodgers.
But they just, I was going to say, they just beat the Dodgers, but you make a good point. They play the Dodgers in the division series. Man, I think it's going to be a tough series. I think the Rangers split on the road. They win 2 at home, and then I'm going to say they win it in 6. It's going to be difficult to win on the road in that clinching game. But I'll say Rangers in 6. I think the Phillies are going to win in 5.
I'd love to see the Rangers win, but I think we're going to see a rematch, the World Series, Houston and the Phillies.
Yeah, I keep thinking the Rangers are about a year behind
but
of that, but I thought the same thing. They're about a year behind. Just get into the playoffs so I get that playoff experience.
Now, if the Rangers come out, I'll eat my words, and I'll come on the show and I'll eat my words that they did it. I just don't know that the Rangers, they've had such a good run, but Houston is such a good team, and
they
such
haven't
a good
matched
manager.
up well against them.
It's really. It's gonna be tough. I think it does. I think we see 6 games with this, but I feel like Houston
the
can
thing
pull
about
it out.
streaky teams in the playoffs is in the regular season, the fire dies down. In October, it really doesn't though, because you sweep you go into the regular season, you sweep the Rays and the Orioles in back-to-back series.
Two best teams in the AL.
Yeah.
Most of the year.
Okay, whatever. You're in first place. You sweep 2 teams in the playoffs. You're in the championship series against a team that struggled with the Twins.
In the playoffs, too.
Yeah.
But what I have learned from watching, the World Series runs for the Rangers and the championship run for the Mavericks is, if your team's still in it right now, enjoy this, because it's going to end, and then you might go 3 years, 4 years, or maybe 10 years without your team.
Or if you're a Cowboys fan,
or you're a Cowboys fan, hey, listen up, Jerry Jones. The Stars, Rangers, and Mavs have all made it to the championship, the semifinals, whatever you want to call it, within the last 2 years, all 3. And arguably, you go back to 2011, all of them have made it multiple times. The Stars have made it multiple times the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But Mavericks, Rangers, the last 12 years have all made that multiple times, and you haven't done it in 26 years. Well, we're hating on the Cowboys today. We are Cowboys fans, just so everyone knows. But yeah, we are Cowboys fans. We are hating on the Cowboys in classic fashion. But guys, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leadoff. Hopefully we got you accurate accurately prepared for your sports weekend. Listen to us live here every Saturday morning on the Peak One Sports Network. Until next time, I'm Ashton.
I'm Tony. Have a good weekend.
See you guys later.